right, so remember, the Europeans coming up with a new trade deal. We saw the president, who was in Scotland recently, meeting with Ursula von der Leyen. She is the head of the European Commission, and the two of them discussing this trade deal. It was unclear whether the Europeans would get a deal. Now they have one. Probably not that happy with it, but better than what was threatened. Let's bring in Peter MacKay. He's a former Foreign Affairs Minister, Justice Minister, National Defense as well. Peter, your thoughts on where we stand on this Monday? Great to see you as always.
Great to see you as well. Well, the time is going quickly, as you mentioned in your prelude to Friday, where it is looking increasingly as if we may not come away with the type of deal that we would want, if at all. And concessions have already been made. There appears to be a backing away from the tariff for tariff, elbows up, sort of combative tone that we saw during the election and immediately after. And even the premiers seem somewhat chastened as to what we may be forced to accept. You also mentioned the deal that was just struck with the European Union. This is, of course, not what they had hoped or envisioned at all. And many countries, Canada included, have talked with some bravado about, diversifying trade, leaning more on one another and away from the United States. Donald Trump has really had his way with many countries, and they are coming to heel and rolling around like kittens on a couch at the end of the day.
Well, it's a good point. And, there's going to be all these headlines people are seeing online and elsewhere, Europeans reach a deal. I mean, the word deal is an interesting term because in a way, it's not a great deal at all. I mean, as you know, 6 months ago, they were paying, somewhere between 2 and 3%. Now that is multiplied by a factor of, 5 or 6. That's what they're facing now. But perhaps the best that they could hope for under this president, Peter.
Well, I think expectations have not only been lowered, but quite severely dampened. And to mix metaphors, the president doesn't use gunboat diplomacy. He uses gun-to-the-head diplomacy and essentially goes from country to country and muscles in on what is a deal that puts 2 wins in the column for the United States. And frankly, Canada seems to be on the outside looking in as opposed to the very advantageous position that we once held because of formerly NAFTA and the USMCA. And so the current situation puts us in a very precarious position, given the far-reaching and catastrophic implications, without being too rhetorical, of not having a deal and having very high tariffs on Canadian products that were going into the United States. So we are in a very, very vulnerable position right now, also made worse by the state of our overall economy, which could be tipped into a recession with more tariffs.
I wonder what you think might happen if, let's say, we get to Friday and there is no deal. I mean, there's a lot of drama now playing out here. The president likes that sort of thing, of course, these sort of 11th hour deals and coming in and signing a document. But, I mean, what happens if we get to, Saturday or next week and there's no deal?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think not only the president likes it, he uses it very much as leverage and to his advantage. He's gone to Scotland to get this deal with the European Union. He has used the same sort of last-minute negotiating tactic on many countries. And if we come to Friday and the deadline passes, it isn't going to be, a complete collapse of the Canadian economy by any means. But then if the president so chooses to start putting more higher tariffs in place, as we've seen with copper and aluminum and steel. The auto sector, very vulnerable. Our lumber, our supply managed system, of course, is something that he's also leveraging Canada on. It puts us in a very tough spot because we're on the outside looking in, as I said before. As other countries have come to the table, we seem to be left out. And I fear not so much the short term, but the longer term implications that this represents across many sectors in the Canadian economy.
What do you think the best case scenario is realistically, Peter, here?
Well, I think taking the Prime Minister at his word, he has said we are going to have to live with tariffs, essentially. What that tariff rate will be and whether we can salvage anything resembling the former trade agreement between the U.S. and Mexico may be a bridge too far. But if we can get back to some level ground on trade, that would be seen, I guess, as taking a loss, but still having something that will keep our economy moving in the right direction. But we have much lower expectations, obviously, than when this president took office, and it has been, frankly, one disappointment after another so far. But look, maybe, just maybe, we'll pull something out at the last minute. In the terms of a hockey game, it would be an overtime goal to do so.
Does it feel like we're in a reality TV show sometimes?
Well, this president, as you know, has a lot of experience with reality TV. Unfortunately, for Canadians, the stakes are far too high. The affordability crisis is very real. We are in a vulnerable position. We've made big commitments in terms of NATO spending, which were welcomed with a great deal of enthusiasm. We have other, of course, important international obligations that we hope to be able to keep, but we need to afford to be able to do so. And I would suggest that the only real lifeline that we are going to have is to massively unleash the potential of our natural resources, oil and gas in particular, but our minerals, pushing for new trade deals for agriculture, other parts of our God-given gifts that exist in this country.
Peter MacKay, former Foreign Affairs, National Defense Justice Minister, with his take here on these 11th hour negotiations, deadline coming up on Friday. Thanks, Peter. Looking forward to talking to you as we get closer to that day.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.